You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. Their eyes to see the world they know outside. I can close my eyes and see all that and way beyond. When these trials of life come heavy and these obstacles get hard, feeling like I need some answers, I just go and talk to God. I just go and talk to God when I'm looking for guidance. Need more than sight, need vision, need direction when I'm blinded. Then I start that conversation with that voice I hear inside me. And that conversation starts with a voice inside that sounds just like me. When I talk to God, you can see God in anything, your reflection. I can find God in anything. When I talk to God, you can see God in anything. When I talk to God, I find God in anything. When I talk to God.
What up, Haywood?
Ask questions. It's ironic it was that advice that helped the song happen. It was also that advice that led me to my life's blessings. That same advice helped me make it through life's lessons. It was that advice that separates grown-ups away from children. That advice can be the difference from knowing or just believing. It was that advice that brought the gavel down on my decisions of breaking the mental chains of these man-created religions. Cause faith and belief, nonsense, the biggest scam ever. I hate to say it, I swear it's one hell of a mental illness. Why we do it with these religions? The fact that coke is killing while all of these guys is missing. Peekaboos, guys playing games with you. I'ma just assume he ain't got no COVID miracles. Maybe he ran out after making the donkey talk. Or some stories about a guy walking on water tides. Simply a distraction to keep you away from you and to look outside for a guy when the God is inside of you. When you close your eyes at night and pray to that voice you talking to. When you ready to face the truth, you realize that voice is you. See God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in.
What up? What up? What up, family? Yo, what is up, y'all? We are back. Thank y'all for joining us for another installment of When the Pastor Has Questions. Tonight is gonna be just a little bit different. I'm just doing a random. I got to keep these videos going, but you know what? I think I need to deal with maybe some things. Just kind of have a little bit of a talk with y'all. What up, Jay? Yeah, that song is fire, ain't it? Collie got one right there. Collie got one right there. As far as I'm concerned, I love that. I love that song. So tonight, what I'm gonna do is why I'm not a Christian anymore, or at least some of the reasons. Because by the way, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube video or channel, y'all make sure y'all do that. That's extremely important. First thing first. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please go ahead, hit that like button. Go ahead and put your boy on that algorithm. Get me going. So here's the thing. This is just a few things, okay? Because what did it for me in my deconversion process may not do it for the next person. One thing that I'm finding out in by doing this research, oh man, that was one thing I forgot to do. Just hit me, y'all. Sorry about that. One thing I'm finding out is that there's a different straw for everybody's back. There's a different straw that broke the camel's back. For one person, it was divine hiddenness. That's the whole thing about God being invisible, all the believers speaking for him and talking about him. What's up, Joanne? Peace, fam. And for another person, it could have been the problem of evil. For another person, it could have been our lack of archaeological evidence or the evidence that was against what the Bible. It's always, it can be something different. But nonetheless, all of these points that I'm finding on this side of the fence, on the deconversion side of the fence, they can be established. They can be demonstrated. They are there. They are really there. So what I want to do tonight is I'm gonna probably go through two statements from two individuals that knew me. I couldn't keep up with all the threads today because just going to work. I work a job, so couldn't keep up with all of the comments. However, I'm gonna deal with two of them here Believe what one of them was by Ricky Cheeves. I'm gonna deal with his comment, and then I think another one came from my boy Quentin. Uh, yeah. So what I'm gonna do is I'm doing. Then I'm going to go into some different facts that aren't really gonna. Well, some of them may change. I was thinking about things that won't change that you can take to the bank are against the Bible. I'm just saying. Um, if you are a believer, I'm just keeping it real with you. If you are a believer and you're watching this and you believe that the Bible is the inerrant word of God, then and you believe that the events that are written therein actually took place, then we should talk. We should talk because I think I can point out some obvious things, but then some more things. I'll take you to a few places on history .com and things like that to show that these are established facts that cause a definite problem for those who would say that the Bible is the word and the work of an all-knowing, all-powerful being. Okay, so if that's your kind of thing, tune in. Y'all make sure y'all share the videos with your family or whatnot, and I'm hoping that this is going to help. What's up, Texas? Got it. Good to see you in the place. I was hoping you and some others would come through. So it's a random. I can be free tonight if you want to come on and share your deconversion experience and just talk about what life after religion has been. Cool, come on in. What's up, Marco? Peace, man. Or maybe you're a believer and you want to come in here and challenge some of the information that I'll be giving on tonight, and we can do that. So without further ado, if y'all here for that type of thing, just get your drink or whatever, chill, because I'm gonna just try to take my time. Many times I'm doing these lives, I'm trying to keep y'all interested. I don't want y'all to click off, trying to keep y'all in here and entertained, but not necessarily entertained with emptiness. I want y'all to really get something from what's being offered here. Again, if I'm go ahead and put it in my clipboard, if you would like to come on, the best way, if you got my person, some of y'all know my cell number on here. If you got my cell number, go ahead out and let me send me a text. If you are on Facebook Messenger or whatnot, I can shoot you the invite link if you want to come on. All right. Yeah. What's good? Um, Lonzo, what's good? And yeah, I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna take my time. You're right. I'm gonna take my time. Okay, so here's where I'm gonna start. I didn't put the name on it. I think. Let me see. This was off of a thread today. Let me see. So I can probably tell who it is when I read it a little bit. Since it will be random, please mention. Okay, this is from Ricky Cheese. So those of you who are in the threads, you will probably recognize Ricky. I'm gonna deal with what you said here first, and my personal thing. He said, Elisha, since it will be a random, please mention what type of person, lifestyle, moral value system you had as a Christian, and do you believe it was a bad one? He goes on to say, I say that because some of your friends suggest Christianity does harm to our people, yet they never say you was harming them when you preach. That's a good point. And while that last part, y'all can still hear me, I gotta go grab a book to recommend to y'all that's gonna speak on that. So give me 1 second. Get the book. I will be back. All right. Didn't take me long because I've been reading it. Y'all see that? This book. I don't know if it's flipped. Maybe I should flip. I don't know if y'all can see it right. Y'all let me know if that's backwards. I can always flip my camera. So anyway, do I believe the moral value system, or what kind of value system I had? Moral value system. So my morals didn't necessarily come to me straight from the Bible, okay? Because I was raised by my grandmother in the beginning, who really didn't even go to church. Not in the beginning. I don't remember my grandmother really going to church until I got uh, later. I think it was deep in the church. I was about ninth grade, but I didn't stay with her that whole time. I was raised by my grandma pretty much from the beginning, mostly till after kindergarten, and I went and lived with my mother. I said all that to say is this is where my morals really started. When I got into Christianity, which was about ninth grade, I already knew right from wrong. There were some things that I wasn't supposed to do or what and whatnot. And one of the first things I've said some of this before, but for the new folk, was profanity. I think y'all probably know if you got kids and they probably out there saying it. They whatever. We was cussing, okay, in ninth grade. That's what we was doing. But when I got baptized, I was like, oh, can't do that no more. Trying to live this life right and all that. So that was a thing, Ricky, if that's what you mean. Um, However, I do think there are some things in the book that, if isolated and followed just for what they are good things. Should you murder? No. When it says thou shalt not kill, from my understanding, that's talking about murder, innocent blood. Should you do that? No, you shouldn't do that. But there are a lot of other things. If you were to take that book as a holistic um, uh, unit and try to incorporate those things and lived according to that, you would go to jail today. If y'all was out there stoning people for adultery or stoning people, I don't know, for whatever reason the Bible says you should stone somebody, you would go to jail for murder. Okay, so the Bible is not the pinnacle of morality. Let me see what else Ricky is saying here. Going further, lifestyle. Now, my lifestyle as a Christian, hey, I was serious. I'm not gonna say it was a bad lifestyle. I will admit I did suppress things. There were things that I I probably thought about doing or wanted to do here and there, and I wouldn't do them because I was a Christian. So hey, you ought not do that. Now that's just me being honest. I think if Christians are honest, y'all know good and well. And then some of those things you go ahead and do as long as there's nobody around. But don't forget the eye in the sky is watching, right? But you went ahead and did it anyway, didn't you? Let me see what else was he saying here. He says that because he says some of my friends suggest Christianity does harm. Yeah. So the harm that I think comes from Christianity, and probably religion as a whole, at least the three main ones being Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, is they seem to corrupt your thinking or either prevent you from questioning and going as far as you ought to go with the questions. Most people in those pews on Sunday don't realize that they support what's called a God of the gaps. That means if humanity doesn't yet have an explanation for it or how it happens, then they claim to know and they just put God on it. Okay, boom, uh, how did humans get here? Okay, well, God formed man from the dust of the earth, and then He brought a woman from the side. I'm actually getting into some of the facts that we might talk about here tonight. So when you get into those type of things, that stops scientific inquiry. That does not push a civilization forward. That is harmful. We could talk about the financial aspect of it and giving 10% of your income or more than 10% to an institution that isn't doing anybody any good right here, right now, except for development of an imagination um, of an all-powerful being within their own head. Because I hope to touch on that tonight. This is why I wanted to do this because I want to deal with some facts. See, here was the thing for me. I'm gonna get a little off, Ricky, but I hope I'm already kind of answered your question. Because here's the thing about imagination. Okay, imagination is powerful, but especially in the church, because you don't realize it really is your imagination that fills in the gaps for you, that God has, or that you read about in the Bible. Your imagination will justify, and that is a problem because religious folk don't realize they're imagining these things, not that these things have been proven or that they have been provided with sufficient evidence to believe what it is they are believing. They will, at the very end of this argument, I don't care if we argue to the year, 3000, they will only be able to go back to, well, God. And when you get to the well God, the non-testable being, the non-falsifiable position. When I say falsifiable, meaning if you're affirming something, if you're as a Christian, you're saying this is the case. Well, you have to tell me what would be able to falsify what you're affirming in order for it to even really be anything valid. Otherwise, it's just your imagination. For instance, um, if you say that the Earth goes around the sun, okay, there's experiments to prove that. And if you want to prove it otherwise, you can actually present evidence or try to present evidence that would disprove that. The problem you're going to have is that you're not going to be able to disprove that sufficiently. And that's kind of what's happening with religion. You have non-believers, we're giving y'all evidence, okay? But at the end of the day, on the believer side, all they can really give you is what they think, what they have imagined. They don't call it a thought. They say, hey, it's real. It's a fact. Okay, here's the thing. If it is real, show that it's real. Let's demonstrate that it's real. Stop talking. And I'm not saying science has the answers for everything. That is actually the beauty of it, is that science continues to critique itself. It continues to test itself. It continues to go back and correct where it may have been wrong in the past. And as we go forth in our human evolution, as we go forth, we learn more. Now, we could get into all of the conspiracies. We could get into all of the hoodwinking going on and things, but there are some very basic things that we can know. Let me pause for a moment and check y'all's comments, because I see some of the comments are coming in as I'm talking, and I'm trying to just chat with y'all. So I really appreciate y'all for y'all doing that. You know what? Y'all help me out. How do these people get in your comments? These I don't know why that. Maybe I can I remove that block user? All right, good. All right. Jesus accepted. Okay, let me scroll back up. Now I'm gonna go because Quentin, I have your I think I got you number 2. You say you realize that the Bible is subject. Yeah, I'll deal with that. But let me read some comments. All right, y'all just bear with me. Jesus accepted questions. And I think Quentin meant so does true Christianity. Jesus accepted questions. Quentin, that's good. That's good to say. But you know what? Some questions when asked, don't get dealt with in a serious manner in the church. I have said this before, and I'm gonna say it again. As a minister in the Churches of Christ, I used to attend an event in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's probably still going on because it's held by the past generations, probably the most popular preacher in the church, Dr. W.F. Washington. Is called the Ministers Institute Conference. And I remember back when I first heard about like Asar and Aset and all of these different Egyptian gods and stuff like that. And I started seeing stuff on the internet about Jesus never existed. Now, this is way back in like 2011, and I was deep in it. I wasn't by no wise where I am now. I never would have thought I would be where I am now in my understanding of things and things. Never thought for a second. I would have laughed at I would have laughed at you, would have told me I'd be doing this sort of thing. Anyway, I asked a question because they have near the end of the conference. I'll never forget. Dr. Hayward was on the panel, along with Jefferson Carruthers, who I've both talked to since my deconversion. However, I asked a question about these things in history about Asar and Aset, and I was talking about Horus and things of that nature. I don't remember how I formed the question because it was a very long time ago, but I remember Hayward simply gave me the passage of scripture that's where it's supposed to be Peter saying, "We have not believed cunning devised fables." Okay, and that was it. That was it. And you could kind of see the other people on the panel. You know, they didn't really laugh at me, but it was like smiling, like, yeah, ain't nobody really concerned about this stuff. Now, now, now they gonna be concerned because people are not buying their bull crap. And there's people sitting right up there in their churches, more than likely, smiling at them and don't believe it but they can't say anything because they have built their whole life around that. And if you're in the church and you're seeing this, we out here, you got a community. Just reach out to your boy. I got you. Because you won't be the only one. There's high profile people that I know in the church that don't believe this stuff, but I know who they are. I keep their identities private. I've had at least two deconversions this year based on the work that I'm doing. So those that are non-believers, like, oh man, leave them alone. Even believers be like, man, if you don't believe, going on about your business. Well, I wasn't quiet when I was in the church. I have a passion for the truth. That's why I say truth is my only religion. But the thing is, now that I know what's really going on with the truth, I'm not going to shut up because I gave 20 years of my life to something that was not as I thought it was. So why shouldn't I take what I have learned in my expertise? If I can save anybody some time or teach them better or help their families come out of it, that's what I'm going to do. Now, if you're just an evil person and you need religion to not murder, rape, steal, and kill, if you need religion for that, if you're that type of person, that's what it do for you. Go on and do what you got to do. Go on and do what you got to do because you already got some problems. Like, now, the reason I brought up this book, From Saved to Sane, My Journey Away from Christianity and Why Christianity Has Been Detrimental to the African American Community. This is written by Willie Cartwright, and he and I was on the live together on the Neo X channel. Now, the reason I say you want to get this book, I'm about halfway through. I'm trying to get through it before I have Willie come on and give us an interview because I like to be able to say I read the book. But this book shows how it does hurt people. Okay, he does a big part, good examples of how it hurts us financially because let me read some of this here. He's into finance. He was 12 years as a financial advisor, 6 of those years in management, and really received a BS degree in finance and earned an executive MBA. So real sharp individual. And he knows what he's talking about. So if you want to know more about how religion has hurt our community, I will suggest that book. So let me see if I answer what Ricky had here. Just Christianity does harm to our people, yet never say you was harming them when you you know what? You know what, Ricky? I can say that is also a reason why I don't want to be quiet about me now knowing the truth because I preach hard. what and the evidence of that is here. I think Quentin can attest to that, and even you, Ricky. When I was out there and I was doing it, man, I put my heart into it. When I said I would die for the gospel, I meant it. I really meant it. Okay, so it does offend me when people say, "Oh, you was never a Christian, or you weren't really." Yeah, man, that's garbage, and you don't know my heart. Go somewhere and read Jeremiah 17:10, and you'll find that out. That's what you believe. That's why I quoted that, because if you believe the Bible, then you should also believe you can't read my heart. You don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing, except I tell you. So, that being said, Ricky, it was harmful. I just didn't know that it was harmful. Back in the day, what, 1800, in the 18th century, I think that was during the time where they still did bloodletting. They thought that they were helping the patient by, releasing their blood, and basically they were bleeding out. They thought that they were helping them, though. Some of them had no intention on killing their patient. It's just that that's what that was doing. It was killing them. I recognize now that the way that I preach and how influential. And by the way, one of the deconversions was a young man, an individual who contacted me later. He was also, I was somewhat of a mentor to him, and I'm so glad to know that he has since come out of religion due to his own research. Because he actually, I have a video with him on my Facebook page from a couple years ago. He was trying to bring me back. So that's my form of going back, and if I can correct some of what I've done. So yeah, I'm gonna say, Ricky, it was harmful in that sense. But I'm not saying that Christians are out here necessarily, not all of them purposefully, robbing, killing, or whatever, or even trying to do something bad. I'm not saying that. But what is dangerous is it's mental psychosis. You have folk really going around here believing some of the things I'm about to go over it. You have people literally believing a snake talk, literally believing a donkey talk, literally believing dude walked on water. They literally believe a virgin gave birth. This is the stuff of fairy tale, and most people in the pews or wherever you are have no knowledge that all of those things I just said were pretty common, especially the virgin birth and even the resurrection. These things were pretty commonplace among the myths of that day. Okay, so before I get to what Quentin had on here, let me see some of the comments. Quentin, you going in? You acting like you want to come on the show. I love you too, bro. I see that. You are not in truth. You left that religion. Man, I'm in the real truth now. Religion, bro, is just that. It's a holding back. It's a binding. When you go back to the original word, religare, having to deal with to hold and to bind. So when I say truth is my only religion, I'm literally saying the only thing that Eli is going to be bound by or held to is the truth. That's what I mean when I say truth is my only religion. Y'all are being held by or bound to your religion. All right. But the problem with that is that once things outside of that Bible and outside of your belief um coming to your same cognitive space with what you think is reality, it's very hard to see it differently. I just happen to be an individual. I had this statement. I should have started with this. Um, I should have started with this. Y'all check this out before I go to the second one. Okay, so when I started my research, listen to me good. To the believers, listen to me good. Quentin, listen to me good. Ricky, if you're watching this, listen real good. Any believer, Hebrew Israelite, whatever you are, even Muslim, it doesn't matter. Any religion that you believe is really true and this objective reality out here in the world, listen to me very well. If you believe that your religion is true, This is what I did. I went into study mode like I would usually do for any old Bible study, sermon, whatever research I was jumping into. But I was challenged by Ricardo Lewis. Okay, so because somebody said it here, another one about Quentin. You said something about my friend and him bringing me out. No, what Ricardo did was he was making posts on Facebook, kind of like how I make just do quick posts about God and things that make you think. And I kept seeing it, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and deal with this guy. And he challenged me. He said, go and find evidence, evidence for these things you believe. Go and find evidence for the Exodus. Go and find evidence for Noah's flood. Okay, I'm a Christian. I believe. I was like, bet. And here was my thing, y'all. This is why all right, I started studying that first, and the evidence wasn't as easy to come by as I thought. And then so that got me to thinking. I took probably a break for a few days. But then I realized, you know what? I have to actually look into the sources that do not agree with what I believed at that time. And to tell y'all the truth, that gave me a whole lot of anxiety because I felt like I was sinning by looking into things that were contrary to what the Bible said. Because it's like God is right. The Bible is right. Why do I need to go and look at that stuff? Because it's right, right? That's what I was thinking. And then one day I thought about it this way. I said, you know what? And Christians, this is the part I want you to listen to close. This part I really want y'all to get. Quentin, Ricky, any other believer. If what you believe right now is the truth, it will still be the truth after your investigation. If what I did write that down, I think I wrote it a little bit more eloquently than I just said it. I said, yeah, the truth is the truth is the truth. I was able to investigate that which I didn't believe was true because I knew if I had the truth already, it would still be the truth at the end of my investigation. That's just it. That's just it. You Quentin, you're right. If what you believe, Quentin, is the truth, it will still be the truth. That and know it, the evidence will bear out what really is the truth. The evidence will bear out what really is the truth. So, with that being said, I'm gonna go into what Quentin said, and we still got to get into some of just so y'all know some of the things I'm gonna get into tonight, real briefly. Days of creation, Noah's flood, and some of these I could go to the text, but we're just gonna have a quick discussion about animals don't talk. Okay. The Exodus at best still didn't happen like we're told in the Bible, even if you want to pin it on the Hyksos, okay? But even though that's well documented and that's not what that is, but even if you tried to do that, it is not what we are told in the Bible. What about the sun standing still for Joshua? You know, that come on. And then the last one I'll probably deal with, and maybe we'll talk about a few more here. By the way, y'all can still get the link if you inbox me. Let me check my inbox while I'm talking because I see it coming up a little bit. Y'all give me a second to check the inbox. All right, nobody's requesting to come on yet, so I'm gonna just keep rocking with what I got. Oh yeah, how about a man being inside of a fish or inside of a whale or fish, whatever you want to say it was? But I'm gonna show you in that example, maybe even before that, it takes imagination for a person to support what the Bible says about the Jonah story. This the only way it works and can be true to an individual but because they don't realize it's imagination, they've been presented with it by authority figures in their life, mom, dad, whoever raised you, and they take it as fact when it makes only fairy tale sense. Okay. All right. Let me go back up. And Quentin said, I realize that the Bible is not subject to be confounded to fit into what you, okay, fit into what you consider reality. Now, Quentin, already before I go into more of this, you're saying that the Bible is not to be forced into what I consider a reality. The problem with that is there is a such thing as an objective reality, not my reality. I mean, real out here, independent of me, there is reality, Quinn. If you can admit that, then you can look at this evidence and say that the evidence, the real physical evidence, or the lack thereof, does not support the biblical narrative. Now, the reason I wanted to do this, I meant to cue the video. Um, let me finish reading what Quentin said before I go there. I'm sorry, y'all. Take my time. Okay, he says, I realize that the Bible is not subject to be confounded to fit into what you consider, you talking about me, consider reality, because the origin of the word is from a, listen, listen. He says the origin of the word is from a supernatural divine being that supersedes what you consider reality. Quentin, how is that different from the other cultures that believe in gods that you don't believe in, that they say supersede our what we consider reality? How is that any different? Unless you're going to have special pleading. Oh, it's okay for Christianity, it's okay for those that believe in the Bible. Let me remind you, Christians, and I didn't first hear this with Michael Shermer or Richard Dawkins. I actually first heard this at my Bible college at Southwestern Christian College by Dr. Ben Foster Sr. We were sitting in Old Testament survey class, and he said, when you think about the atheists, he would say, even those who are polytheistic would consider those of us who are Church of Christ or whatever, believers in the one God, they would consider us atheists because we don't believe in all of the other gods. So we just had one, but you got the Greeks who had a pantheon. Is it the Hindus? Somebody they got a whole bunch of gods. You don't believe in none of those, Quentin. So you're an atheist. Okay. The difference is, like Michael Shermer would say, some of us just go one God further. Okay. So it's not really a big leap to make. I'm just showing you why that one that you believe in that book has some issues. Quentin continues to say, let me back up. He said, because the origin of the word, talking about the Bible, is from a supernatural divine being that supersedes what you consider reality. What is that, Quentin? No, man, for real. What is that? If he is supernatural, how do you know? If he does if he is divine, how do you know that? What outside that can you show us? Can you give us that proves supernatural? You can't do it because you know why, Quentin? You are a natural being. You are a human, and you use your five senses to interact with this world. So anything that is supernatural, meaning beyond the senses, beyond nature, you can't know it. Now you can imagine whatever you want, And that's why imagination gets you into that dimension. Imagine, that's why I say it's going to go back to your imagination, Quentin. Now, what I just said makes a whole lot of sense. You won't see it because of the mental psychosis of belief. You have to believe what you're believing, because if you don't believe it, it's going to tear up your whole worldview. Some of us in our deconversion processes have moments. Some people darn near go crazy. I cried for 3 hours. After 3 hours, I was, it's time to stop crying. This is reality. Wake up. I don't know. Some other people, they just can't handle it. But truth is true. Let me see. Quentin also says, let's see, supernatural divine being. Not being, he says, it supersedes what you consider reality. Not being able to see or perceive something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That's not what I'm saying. You can't see galaxies that are out there with the naked eye. And some out there probably we can't even see with the James Webb telescope. Don't mean they don't exist. That's not what I'm saying, Quentin. But it is knowable. The universe is knowable. We just got to keep going. Because 5,000 years ago, Quentin, we didn't know what we know now. Now we know a whole lot, but we do not know everything. But what we do know so far, it's not looking good for the God of the Bible so far. Okay, let's continue. He says, not being able to see or perceive something doesn't mean it doesn't exist or never happen. I will say this. If something did happen, like we're going to talk about here in a few minutes, some claims of believers that they say happened in a certain way, there would be evidence. Because guess what? That's the whole thing about apologetics. They look to find evidences for those who don't believe. So if the flood really did happen, Quentin, and it was a worldwide flood, meaning Australia was underwater, North America was underwater, all of Russia was underwater, all of Africa was underwater, everything was supposed to be underwater, and only 8 people, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, only 8 people, only 8 were left alive. There would be evidence, and when I get to that, you'll see why there should be evidence. Not being able to see or perceive something doesn't mean it doesn't exist or it never happened. You don't believe it does because you're subject to your thinking and it governs you. I'm subject to my thinking. Okay, fair enough. I am. I'm subject to my thinking because guess what, Quentin? I'm the one doing the thinking. Who's thinking for you? Who's thinking for you and the believers? And here's part of the okie doke. You think you're thinking for yourself, but what you had just said about a being that supersedes reality and is supernatural and all of that, who told you that? How do you know that, Quentin? How do you know? You cannot even begin to answer and show us how you know that. You have to tell us, you would have to tell us, can you imagine or ask, can you imagine a being outside of time, space, and matter? Okay, and this being is able to speak, don't got a mouth, speak, doesn't have vocal cords, speak, and things just come into existence. I'm trying to figure out where that type of being, Quentin, comes in contact with natural. You said the being is supernatural. When does it interact with the natural, and how do you know that it did? When does it interact with the natural, and how do you know it was the supernatural that did whatever it is that happened? How do you know it's not a natural cause? How do you know, Quentin? How do you know? All right. And I'm about done with his claim. He says, never happened. You don't believe it because you're subject to your thinking and it governs your truth. The evidence is what governs my truth. And you do have to have a preponderance of the evidence. And maybe That's part of the issue. See, some of us are in religion or were in religion believing that it was true in reality. Now, if you're that person and you're an honest person, you might have some problems after this live tonight, because if you're thinking this reality, then you also would expect to find certain evidence or certain things to be true if it's reality. And I'm gonna go over that, especially when we get to the floods. For me, a flood is a big one too. That we know did not happen, but we know if it would have happened, there are certain things we should see in our evidential record, or we should see in reality. We just don't see it. The lack of evidence and the evidence that does exist support that there was never a global flood. Okay, it just didn't happen. Floods happen, and most people living along the coast, as sea levels rose up, a lot of that history is underwater. But that is not the same narrative as what the Bible says. The Bible says everything was covered up, the whole earth, and only 8 people were alive after that. Okay, that's what it says. It says, Quentin said, because you're subject to your thinking and it governs your truth, which you base upon non-factual information. Okay, Quentin says my information is non-factual. What I'm gonna need you to do, Quentin, is when you play this live back or any of my lives, I'm gonna need you to show me why the information I have shared is not accurate, factual, or otherwise. Now, we can get into some conspiracy theories or whatever, but I'm keeping this real simple. I'm gonna go to some Christian sources tonight, and I'm gonna go to, some scientific and some, maybe I think I got one science source on here and another historical source. We just gonna use History Channel. I know people say, oh well, the History Channel. Look, I'm keeping this simple, but these things can go and you can look them up really, really quickly. And if this stuff what I'm sharing with you tonight is true, it should at least cause pause for the believer to go and start researching. And I'm gonna go this far. Take it to church. Y'all say y'all studying the Bible. Okay, let's study it then. Let's really study the Bible. I'm not talking about getting the Bible study and talk about, oh yeah, when people treat me like this, I do that, and everybody sharing their little testimony or story. No, Bible study. How did you get that Bible? Where did it come from? What date, time, and period? Where were they geographically in this area? Who were they fighting with? What records do you have outside of the Bible that support what you believe? That's study. Okay, that's study, not imagination. All right, I think all right, here we go. Here we go. Days of creation. Simple one. Wait, before I get in, let me look at y'all comments because y'all going in. One second, y'all. Let me back up. Let's go to the comments right quick. Thy word is true. Quentin, there you go. You're just simply quoting a book that contains contradictions and things we know that it affirms that have been proven to be scientifically wrong. See, the thing about the Bible and it being by you said it's from a divine supernatural source. All right, so that source should definitely know what we consist of, what's good for us. One thing, I mean, real simple, washing hands, and the germs and all that kind of stuff. It could have told us about all this stuff in the ancient time. That would be a clear fingerprint of something outside of what we know. Okay, we would be saying, well, how did these people know these things? 2,000, 3,000 years ago. How did they know it? Oh, then you would have maybe some kind of case to make. But that's not what we see, Quentin. We see a whole bunch of what we should see if we're talking about ancient peoples who did not have any knowledge of a world or lands outside of the Middle East. There were lands outside of the Middle East. These people that are talking in this Bible do not appear to have any knowledge of these lands. Okay. Oh, comments. God has been investigated and the word of God has been investigated and stands true. Bruh, remember, bro, John 17:17. Da, da, da. I went looking for God. Joe Smith says, I went looking for gods. Started at Job because I was going through some things. I found nothing. If you and you know Joe Smith, thanks for that comment. Joe, you know, one of the things I thought was fascinating was that when I discovered that the book of Job is actually the oldest book in the Bible. Okay. And when you go into the book of Job, Quentin would probably say that the study of astrology or looking into it, you would probably say that it's sinful. Most Christians would tell you it's sinful, even though they want to know their zodiac sign and things of that nature, but it's never got me. But that's not exactly true, because in Genesis chapter 1, it says that supposedly their God put the stars there for signs and for seasons. Hear what I say? Not just seasons, but for signs. So it was to tell them something. And Job asks, not Job, but God, the God figure, asks Job in Job 38 a question about him knowing about Orion and Archis and the bear, which is Ursa. He is basically asking Job, do you know this about the stars? You don't know as much about this. Why should he be studying the stars if it's sinful? Okay. I don't know how did I get into that? How did I get into that, y'all? What did anyway, back on topic. Let's see. He went looking for God. Oh yeah, you started in Job. That's where it was. So yeah, let's see here. Sorry, Eli. I saw Aquaman and he Joe got jokes. You're right, Joe. Aquaman can do it. So can Job, right? You're right. I ought to take that one off the table because, hey, apparently Aquaman can do it. That's good enough for me, right? Ladon, how does one legitimately stand on Christianity when other religions have the same story and was before Christianity? Quentin, can you answer that? And Quentin, I know you may or may not have the time. I think what she just asked you is a legit question. I think what they're doing, Ladon, because I kind of either they're ignoring it or they have what's called special pleading. If you don't know what special pleading is, it's when the religious folk will make a case for, let's just say, the miracles. Oh, we know it happened, and Jesus really did walk on water because he's Jesus. But then you might have another religion um, that's different from Christianity, and they're talking about their miracles and like let's take the Mormons. The Mormons is probably a good example, right? The Mormons is probably a good example because the Mormons believe that Jesus Christ came over here to the Americas and there was this big Anglo European civilization over here, which is a lie. They believe that though, that Jesus came over here after his resurrection or whatever, and there's no evidence to bear that out. Nothing in the history, nothing in the archaeology. And Christians of the Protestant persuasion of the faith, Christians in the churches of Christ, Baptists, Methodists, what both of us probably came into, they'll say all day, oh yeah, the Mormons don't know what they talking about. They ain't got no evidence, and they really don't. And they'll say they don't know what they talking about. But when you would come at their Jesus, we got all the evidence in the world. You got the same thing they got. You have mostly the same thing that they have. Okay, especially when it comes to the miracle claims. But that's special pleading. It's supposed to be true for you, but when somebody else does it, it doesn't work. And that's what you're doing. Let me see what's up. Joe, I believe, and man, lived inside the world for 3 days. Y'all got jokes. Let's see where we at. So did Texas guys. My mom would suggest I was going to be a pastor most of my life. Let's see. What's up, sis? Dewana in the place. Let's see. No one from those regions have any oral or written documentation stating a worldwide flood. They have regional stuff. Tell Quentin to use his common sense. Let me see what Chris say. The opinions of the authors within that collection of texts, were the authors of those texts engage in eisegesis themselves? That's a good question. For those who are unfamiliar with eisegesis, a quick way to know it, when you see the I there for where you see the E, I, E, eisegesis is when you read into the text what's not there. But the Christian is supposed to be doing exegesis. They're supposed to be bringing out of the text what is actually there. The best example I can give of this is whenever you give a Christian talk about the contradiction that happened on the cross when thieves, one text says that the thieves mocked Jesus, meaning both of them made fun of him. And then I think it's Luke says only one of them made fun of them. And then people say, well, it's obvious that the other one had a change of heart. It doesn't say that. You're reading into the text what's not there. That's eisegesis versus just taking the text at what it says, exegesis. I'm just throwing that in there for those who may be unfamiliar with that word. Chris says believers saying it's about exegesis and not eisegesis. Yet I wonder if the authors that they're reading weren't engaged in that very thing themselves, giving their opinions as objective. That's a good point, Chris, because what we find in the Bible is it appears that these are people trying to maybe, in some cases, they're trying to make sense of the world around them. And one of the questions we have all had now I'm gonna just be transparent with y'all. I'm gonna be transparent. I've been on and off for about the past week listening to some stuff and looking into evolution. It's not a topic I know pretty much anything about. It's not something um that I just don't know enough about it. But I've been trying to dive into it and look at it and not be afraid of it. So, just let's just take a look. But the reason I bring that up, because one of the most common questions we have is where do we come from? I think people had that question 3,000, 4,000, however long we've been here, however many years ago. How did we get here? Well, what we see in the Bible is one group's explanation of how we got here. You know, a God picked up some of his dirt, formed a man, breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. Oh, we got a man. Oh, make him. He names all the animals. Nothing is found for him. God say, okay, Adam, go to sleep. Open up the side, take a because you got and it screams a society that is really hostile to women. That's what it's because everything we know you do not get it. It would have been a better story if he had at least formed the woman from the ground first, and then she gave birth. That would have it still be a fairy tale, but that would have made more sense than the one we got to believe that the woman is made out. I'm forgive me, y'all. I don't mean to laugh, but it is amazing. Oh man, my and now. Come on, don't do that to me. Maybe I got too many windows open. All right, let me see. What if I close this? Let's close. Let's close this. Let me see. Let me close some of this, y'all. Need me a new. All right. Let me see where I'm at. All right, y'all. I hope I'm back. I hope it's not too choppy. But yeah, I don't mean to laugh, but the thing is, man, it's like, how did we ever believe this stuff? All right. Most of it is just make believe, Margla. Exactly. It is make believe programming. Just tuning in. We'll catch replay. All right, Monique. There's no such thing as the Middle East. I use these terms, by the way, for those of y'all in the mostly non-believers. There are a lot of terms. So I know what y'all talking about, But remember, when you're trying to teach people, when you're trying to help them uh, get to where you are, you have to take baby steps. Because that's a question I always had too about the whole Middle East. Middle of what? East of what? I get it. However, I'm using terms, especially when I say African. I don't even like the phrase African American, but I'm using these terms because that's what most people are familiar with. And at least you know the area. When I say Middle East, you know the area I'm talking about. Call it what you want, but you know the area. That's the only reason I'm doing that. You still let's look. The special pleading. Never heard of that. Thanks for sharing. No problem, Monique. Vince, let's see what Vince is say. One thing I do know for a fact, no matter whatever book you dive into, you definitely study and put pure evidence behind everything. You know what? I'm putting that on. That hit me in the heart. This guy right here, for those of y'all who don't know, he knows me personally. He's in the city of Jacksonville, seen me preach. And when I'm doing what I do, man, I'm just so glad Vince is here because I'm sincere about what I'm doing. As hard as I'm going in for y'all, this is how I did it in the church. So thanks for that, Vince. I sure appreciate you at least, coming on here and saying that much and being active. All right, all right, all right. All right. So I went through most of the comments of value here. Now, let's talk about days of creation. Are they literal days or was it eons of time? Now, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, they will try to squeeze an unknown specified amount of time into a day. And they will point out how it says, like, in the day, all right, y'all know how we used to say back in the day. We're not necessarily talking about a day, but we're talking about a period of time. They try to say that this is what they were doing in the Bible. However, this is not the case. Go and talk to some real so-called Hebrew scholars, okay? Go and y'all look up this guy. Look up, I'm gonna put it in the chat right quick. Look up. Now he's a Jew, and he's hardcore Jew, but he's talking to stuff, and he does a whole lot of things around trying to show why Christianity is false. His name is Tovia. I need to spell it right. Hold on. Tovia. Is it Singer? Chris, I know you know this guy. We was talking about him earlier. Look up Tovia Singer on YouTube. Look him up. And his arguments. Okay. And if you're a Christian and you say you got the truth or whatever, it looks like my comment just went to YouTube. Tovia Singer. Look this dude up, man. He's gonna show you how the suffering servant in Isaiah 53 is very popular for that one. How that's not talking about some guy named Jesus. Go and look up Isaiah 9:6 talking about a virgin shall conceive. He's gonna show you how that it was not talking about a literal woman who had never had sex with a man. And if you keep reading, you'll find out who it was actually talking about. He breaks that stuff down so well. And after you get finished dealing with Tovia, take some of Tovia's stuff to your preacher and see what he do with it. Okay? I ain't gonna lie. Man, I'm so glad. Well, no, I ain't gonna say I'm glad because I wanted my people to study. I'm just kind of glad that I didn't get put on the spot with some of the information he had while I was in. Because I would have been, I don't know what I would have did with that. Because I'm honest. Now, you know what? This is what I wanted to say to the family. This is what I wanted to say to y'all. Hold on. Wait, should I do that now? I should. No, let's keep going. Chris says he has a book series, Let's Get Biblical, part 1 and 2. Yeah, y'all check out Tovia. Tovia is hardcore when it comes. Okay, so 6 days of creation. Now, never mind that the days are out of order. And I believe you have things happening. You got the whole light thing before the sun and all that. I'm not trying to get deep into it, except to say the days of creation in the Bible literally seem to mean, according to everything else, 24-hour days. That is preposterous. Okay. That is crazy. Okay. The other thing I want to say about these 6 days is however old, if the earth is 6 days old, remember Adam gets created on the sixth day. All right. Adam gets created, man gets created on the sixth day. That means that the earth is only about 6 days older than Adam. So when the Bible tells you that Adam was 930 years old, I think I feel like it's choppy. My picture keeps doing that. And I'm hardwired. I hope this is a fast enough connection. Okay, yeah. So when it says that Adam is 130 years old, at that point, y'all just go and do the math if you're a Christian. At that point, that means that the earth was only 930 years old. I think Adam died at 930 according to the Bible. So that would mean the earth was only 930 years old. And then when you start doing the math and the genealogies and working your way up, you only get about 6,000 years of supposed human history. Now, there are those that say the genealogy skip generations and all that. Well, if it's skipping generations, you don't know anything. It's just making up stuff. And then that also could possibly mean that Noah, who everybody knows as the seventh son from Adam, it even says that. I think it's Enoch. Chris, I think you read Enoch. It may be Enoch that calls the seventh from Adam, or am I in the Bible there? I might be getting it mixed up with Enoch, but it calls Noah the seventh from Adam. Okay, so according to whomever is quoting that, they didn't skip. He is the seventh. They didn't say he's the 70th from Adam. He's the seventh from Adam. Okay, so now we got a timeline. We have a working timeline. So let's get into this Noah floods thing, because what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start to share screen. We're getting a little deepest right at 8 o'clock. I don't want to necessarily speed up. I want to give y'all some good stuff. Share with your family. Let's get biblical. Thanks, Chris. He put the link there. Y'all go and check out Tovia. He gonna give you some good ammo. They have many interpolations in that book. Which creation story? I'm just for tonight. I'm talking about the one in the Bible. But what Joe may be alluding to, most people in those pews, okay, most people in the churches today, you have no idea about these creation stories in that area that predate, okay, the Genesis story. And you got to ask yourself, if Moses wrote that stuff and Moses supposedly lived, I don't know, sometime after the 1800 BC, whatever. The point is, how did he know what was going on? Where did he get his information from? Okay, where did he get it? Might talk about some miscellaneous things when I finish up here. I have a Bible in my possession, and according to the KJV circa early 1900, it has a creation of man started 6,000 years ago. Exactly. I can't remember who the scholar was. Somebody some centuries ago, he sat down and did the math. I actually sat down and did this math with a friend of mine some long time ago, long time ago. Probably back in like '07, '08 or something like that. And we sat down and we just went through it. We did the math, and that's, you cannot come up with, if you want to stretch it, you may get close to 10,000, but no, it's about 6,000 years that they give you. Genesis does have two creation stories. Ooh, man. So I can't get too far into that. Here's what I'm gonna say. I got to say something because again, it's just a random, right? Let me tell y'all how I discovered Genesis had two creation stories. In I don't have my book, but there's a book called How to Read the Bible for All That Is Worth by an author named Gordon Fee. How to Read the Bible for All It's Worth, Gordon Fee. And then there were some things that we were taught in biblical hermeneutics and at school. Basically, is this: the Bible, when it's repeating things, pay attention to when when it keeps repeating things, right? And it keeps using a phrase. And then when it changes, that's something to note and pay attention to. Now, if you remember your Bible, or you can look at it while I'm saying this, if you look at chapter 1, Genesis 1, you'll notice it says, and God said, let there be, whatever. And God said this, and God said that, and God said, and God said, and so on and so. God said, God said, God said. Okay, I was like, bet it's repeating God said. This is during the day I actually broke down and was crying for 3 hours. I said, okay, God said. And then I went and looked it up in the original language. God said, God said, God said. And I kept reading. Okay, okay. I get to chapter 2 and verse 4. Chapter 2 and verse 4, it says, Lord God. Did it say he said Lord God? I want to get the exact words. It changed though. Before it was just God said, God said, God said. But then when you get to Genesis 2 and verse 4, it says, in that day, the Lord God made the earth and heavens. Okay. It changed, y'all. And as you continue throughout the second chapter, it says, Lord God, Lord God, Lord God. So here was the change. It went from being Elohim, gods, plural, to Lord, which is Yahovah, God, Elohim. Yahovah Elohim is not the same as just Elohim. Elohim is not the same as Yahovah Elohim. One more thing on that note, man, Joe, you done got me all off it, but this was one of the ones that did it for me. So that was a change. And then go and look up what garden is. Okay, garden is an enclosure, but when you look in chapter 1, it says he gave them every tree that bared fruit. If there was fruit on the tree, he gave it to them. And you can clearly see that the people talked about in Genesis chapter 1 are not the same people talked about in Genesis chapter 2. That's just from the text. That wasn't my purpose tonight, but Joe, you took me you took me there, man. All right, let me move on. Let me move on. All right, so we talked about days of creation briefly. Now I want to get into this Noah flood thing, the unbroken record of Egyptian history. I'm gonna talk about some other things about the flood, but let's talk about this. If a flood happened, okay, and if there were only eight, I don't have time to pull up all the Bible verses, but if you don't know the story, go back and read Genesis chapter 6 and go through about chapter 8 or in the 7. If you read that, what you're going to find out is that the whole earth was covered by water. Here's the three. The whole earth was covered by water. Only 8 people on the earth were supposed to be alive after the flood. And this third point, the boat landed on Mount Ararat. Mount Ararat is in the mountain range of northern Turkey. Go look it up on the map. Northern Turkey, and that mountain range is like right above Turkey on the map. If you have a relief map, you should be able to tell. You'll see Turkey and you'll see all these huge mountains like to the north of the country. That is the those are the mountains of Ararat. All right, so picture this. The earth is flooded. They got a boat. The water, to get them way up there, the water is covering all the mountains. As the water starts to recede, according to the story, the boat lands on Mount Ararat. Now, where is Turkey in the Middle East? We ain't talking about Mark Glass. I know, like, don't use the term, but I'm just trying to put people in the mind of where it is. It's over in that area, okay? If you don't, not too familiar. So my point is, Mount Ararat, keep this in mind while I go into some other things, is 7,000 miles from Australia. 7,000 miles from Australia. All the animals that were on Earth are dead because they drowned, because they only took so many animals on this boat, according to the story, right? All right. Let me build this point because I'm trying to. It's going to be real simple. 8 people. Here, let me start to share the screen. Here's my question. When did it happen? Y'all, I'm going to pull up. Y'all ever heard of Got Questions? GotQuestions.com. I'm going to pull up a Christian source and let how does 15 clear? Yeah, exactly, Joe. Because what they would have to do is change the narrative about the story. Because even when I was in the church, I was trying to at least get people to see the flood was not worldwide, even if it did happen. It was a local flood, had to be a local flood. But that's not what they believe, Joe. So we going with the global. It covered everything. Now, I want to show y'all when Christians say, according to a Christian source, when did the flood? Now, this is important to those who are believers. You're either gonna say, man got this completely wrong, and all these people studying geology, they don't know anything about their timeline. They just know nothing. And I contend that it is us who really don't understand time frames in religion or in the church. Church folk act like everything back there, like they lump everything together. If it's old, it was just, it was like Noah and the Egyptians and the period, all that was going on at the same time. No, time has a timeline. Everything is happening in its own time. Okay, so get that straight. Now, I can't really make this any bigger, and so I can see what y'all see. I'm gonna try to read it off of this screen. Now, what this is gotquestions.com. This is what they're going to say. I'm going to read it, but you can already see in the second paragraph, end of the second paragraph, they said it occurred approximately 2348 BC. If you're not familiar with BC dates, don't worry. I will explain how they work. But I'm going to read. Y'all bear with me. According to this method, the time from Adam to Noah was approximately 1,056 years. These are approximate times because we don't know if the years are counted from conception or birth. So you got 9-month gaps and all that, but I'm going to show you why even that is going to be insignificant. It is so obvious that the years are given in whole numbers, but no doubt included or excluded partial years. So the Bible ain't tell. See, they give this ambiguous language, and it could be this and it could be that. Yeah, that's exactly what you expect from an all-knowing, all-powerful being, right? No, you expect the truth, what it is. All right. It says, for instance, Adam was 130 years old when Seth was born, give or take a certain number of months and days. Second paragraph. So we have Noah's birth, which occurred about 1,056 years after the creation of Adam. Okay. Then in Genesis 7:11, we are told that the flood came in the 600th year of Noah's life. So that would mean the great flood came approximately 1,656 years after Adam was created in Eden. Keep listening. Using a similar method places the creation of Adam and Eve at around 4004 BC. So, doing the math, Noah's flood occurred approximately 2348 BC. According to this source, Quentin, you told me before that, wait, no, it wasn't you. I think it was Robert Ash about gotquestions.com that you're like. Either way, this is a Christian source. So according to this source, Noah's flood, the whole earth was underwater at some point in the year, right around 2348 BC. If you're unfamiliar with BC dates, the smaller that number gets, BC brings you closer to our time. So if I were to say 2000 BC versus 23 BC, the 2000 BC is closer to us than the 23. As the number gets bigger in BC, that means it's further back in time and then you come all the way up to supposedly Jesus time, year zero, and then after the supposed birth of Christ, that's when it's in the positive. So if you could imagine a number line like you learned in math, you have your zero, and then as you go further to the right, the numbers are positive, and as you go further to the left, the numbers are negative, and the bigger the number is in a negative, the further you are away from zero and everything positive. I hope that was clear. All right. Get that year in your head. 2348 BC. Here is the problem with the worldwide flood and evidence that cannot be denied. There were people on earth in Egypt, which is not far. That's one of the reasons I chose Egypt, because it's still close. It's associated with that area that was still on earth in that time period, and nobody told them that they were supposed to be covered in water and dead. Nobody told them. Let's go look at some of this. Let me see. So watch this, y'all. Let's see. Share this tab. All right. What are we looking at? Let me take my face off the screen. Okay. All right. What we are looking at here, don't forget the year. It was 2348 approximately that the flood happened. But what you're about to find out is that not only were the Egyptians doing big things before what I'm going to show you, but what I'm going to show you coincides with that date. And then it continues unbroken. Okay? They should have all been dead. They shouldn't have been building crap. They should have all been underwater. Now, what? So let me go to the history. All right, y'all with me? The Old Kingdom, age of the pyramid builders. This is when they believed they're about, may have been around that time. Look, 2686 BC through 2181. Do y'all see? The date of 2348 is in here. It's in here. And I don't care if you say approximately. Well, how much approximately? Because I'm back in 26680. I'm in 2686. That's what is that? That's 3,000 years. Wait, no, 3,000. Get my math wrong. My point is that's before 23. Yeah, a few hundred years, about 300 years. That's before 2348. And then I have a date of 2181, which is after the time of the flood. Are y'all getting that? Let me see. Let me let that soak in and see what y'all comments saying. I hope y'all getting that. Let's see. The methane gas would have killed everyone on the boat. Absolutely. Absolutely. I ain't even getting to that. But those are good points. Thank you, Sheila, for sharing that. All right. But did y'all see what I'm saying? The Christians will tell, okay, it is believed that the flood happened around 2348 BC. Here we go with the history. Old Kingdom. These people down there building pyramids and all kind of stuff, man. Somebody should have told them. Let's read some of this. The Old Kingdom began with the third dynasty of the pharaohs around 2630 BC. The third dynasty, King Josiah, asked Imhotep, an architect, priest, and healer, to design a funerary monument for him. The result was the world's first major stone building, the Step Pyramid at Saqqara near Memphis. Egyptian pyramid building, reached its zenith with the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza on the outskirts of Cairo, built for Khufu or Cheops in Greek, who ruled from 2589 to 2566. The pyramid was later named by classical historians as one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus estimated it took 100,000 men, 20 years to build, blah, 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 blah. Y'all get my point, but I think I got a little bit more. But I went through that to show you. Let me see. I hope y'all get it. There should have been erosion of the pyramids from the receding waters. Yep. So let me show y'all something else here. I think I got more. Give me a second to get my sources together. So I wanted to go further and ask the question about how old and how far back this stuff goes. So I'll share this, because what I'm asking here, 8 facts about writing, because some people say, oh well, writing only goes back so far. Yeah, it does only go back so far, but let's see how far these people in that area of the world, how far did their writing go back. Listen to this. Let me make sure y'all are seeing this and why this is important. This is important because if the whole let me bring myself. If the whole civilization gets covered by water, everything would stop. Okay, if everybody on Earth dies except 8 people, there's nothing going to be going on in the other parts of the world. This is pretty obvious, right? Pretty obvious. But let's see. Next to the pyramids, the Sphinx and mummies, one of the most intriguing discoveries from ancient Egyptian civilization is a form of writing that appears like stylized pictures of people, animals, and objects. Hieroglyphic writing, whose name comes from hieroglyphos, the Greek word for sacred carving, has been found carved into stone walls more than 5,000 years ago, and was used up to, y'all see that, right? Y'all see that, right? It was used up to the 4th century AD. What does that mean? What does that mean, family? That means, okay, well, let me do the math for you. This year is 2022. Let's go drop back 5,000 years ago. Minus 5,000. Know what you get? You will end up in the year 2978 BC, right? 2978 BC. These people were writing and doing their thing. Now, think about what you're told. This may be a little bit for those. Let me stop sharing. I could probably stop sharing. But those of you who want to go look at the Bible and look at this stuff and share this with your family, make sure you make this point clear to them that Noah's Ark landed in Ararat, the northern mountains of Turkey. Only 8 people were on the boat, and everybody else in the world was dead. And that mountain range is 7,000 miles from Australia. Not Don't even think about crossing the Atlantic. Let's just say Australia, right? But we know if the earth was covered with water and the waters are receding, that means all the Philippines is underwater. So you can forget about a land bridge leading the animals over to Australia from that boat. You can forget about Mr. Kangaroo hopping all the way 7,000 miles from off of the mountain all the way to Australia. Didn't happen. You can just forget about all of the indigenous animals that arose, which, by the way, gives more credence to this thing called evolution, because environment has influenced the way these animals have come to adapt to their environment. That make them understand this. So we're back now 5,000 years. These people in Egypt are writing in 2978. So they doing this years before. But the Bible tells you that the people of Egypt came from somebody named Mizraim. I think he was a grandson or a great grandson of Ham. Who was Ham? Ham was supposed to be the son of Noah. You had Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And they're saying the Egyptians came from Ham, which Mizraim came from. Wait a minute. These people predate. They predate that. Somebody don't know what they're talking about. Now, if you can understand that point, that's profound. But just so I don't, it's 8:30. All right, check this out. Let's think about this flood. Did I cover this? All right, I'm still on Noah's flood. Dang, man. I might need to do this again. All right, check this out. If your family or the believer that's on here tonight, if you believe that Noah's flood happened, if you believe that it was a worldwide flood and everything was covered in water, everything died except 8 people and the animals in the ark, the only way that that could actually happen and we're here today is to you have to call on what Quentin called on earlier, the supernatural. You have to call on to believe that that actually happened. You have to call on something that is imaginary. Okay, you don't believe it's imaginary. You have to call on something that none of us can know but you. None of us, you have to, because there is no way any of those animals get off that ark, come down that mountain, and end up in Australia, in Africa. How did the mammals get over there to South America? It can't happen. Now, the only way y'all can still hold on to some Bible with the Noah story is you must admit it was a local flood. And maybe some guy gathered up a few animals on the boat of that were right around there. Maybe just certain of his flood, or whether, if you want to say that, okay, cool. But then it takes away the grandeur. It's not the story we grew up with. It is not the same story at that point. That's my point. It did not happen. And this, what I just told you, is a concrete fact that will not change. There is not going to be any science that will tell you near the year 2348 BC that the whole earth was covered in water and all vegetation and all I just thought about something. In the story, one way Noah supposedly knew it was safe to go out was that he sent out a bird and it brought back an olive branch. And that meant there was ground. Wait a minute. The tree would have been dead. It would have been dead. Everything died. Where did this bird get a branch from? Quentin, I'm just using my own thinking, right? And to say something about my own thinking, Quentin, you believe that your God gave me my faculties of thinking. If you believe that, and that's what he gave me, and he is not willing that I should perish and wants me to be saved, why would he give me a mind to question this stuff? And after I'm questioning it, not give me the answers or not allow me to come into direct contact with what's needed to change me, convict me, or in the beginning, he could have kept me. When I started doing my research, he could have put the research in front of my face that would have kept me in the church. You know why, Quentin? Because he's not real. It's made up. Hate to break it to you, brother. It's not real. All right. It's a story that was plagiarized. Absolutely, Joe. Yes, and the chosen people. You know, I'm reading y'all comments. The curse. Oh, damn, pissed me off to the end. Quick story, y'all. I remember I was in elementary school, and my mom must have came across some Mormons, and we weren't really. I don't think we were going to some different churches at the time, and I guess they must have invited her to something. And we went, and they were nice people, from what I can remember. I was really young. I remember the kids, everybody was really nice. And I actually wanted to go back because I remember one night I asked my mom, I said, "We're not going to the church, we're not going." And my mom looked at me and said, "We ain't messing with them people. They believe black people are cursed." And we never went back. Never went back after that. All right, I gotta get a move on because I only got to Noah's flood. Okay, I just want to say something real quick. I could cover this one real quick. Animals don't talk. I'm just saying, man. It's like when you in the church and you hear about this stuff. Oh man, my back hurt. You hear about this stuff in antiquity. It's almost your imagination will allow for it to let it be true just because it's ancient, and we have so many mysteries surrounding what the ancient people were about, what they were doing. We see things that we still can't explain. We know that they had a knowledge, but when you look at that, it still does not scream Bible for those of you who are Bible thumpers. Like I said on another live, if I were looking uh to be taught about God, let's just drop back. Let's just go take a time machine. Let's just drop back, y'all, about 3,000 years, right? 3,000 years ago. No, it's 2,000 years ago, just before Jesus hopped on the scene. 2,000 years ago, right? If you're looking for God, right? And you have knowledge of the Egyptians and what they've been able to accomplish in the physical, right? And what they say about gods, and how Herodotus even says maybe a couple hundred years before you, if you're privy to writing and reading back then, because most people were illiterate, didn't know. But if you're privy to that, Herodotus talked about how everybody from the Greeks came and they learned there in Egypt. All them people came there because it was a center of knowledge. Okay, well, guess what? Why would you today be believing what a nomadic, goat herding people who walked around the wilderness for 40 years to find themselves in a place they could have reached in about a week on foot? Why would you listen to what they say about God rather than the people who built a monument that science today still can't explain? And if you're going to use God or the gaps, well, use it on that. Science has not explained to us how they did it. We still don't know how they did it. The only thing we can all agree on, it was done. It's there. So why are you believing the Israelites? Huh? It doesn't make sense. If Neil deGrasse Tyson may not be an astronaut, but I guarantee if he was the only one alive, if he was the only astrophysicist alive, and it was me, you, and let's just say 5 other people, and he's the guy that we got to depend on to or we're looking at some of us to figure out a way for us to get to the moon. I'm telling you right now, I'm putting even though he may not be able to do it, I'm gonna put my money on Neil deGrasse Tyson. Not none of y'all. Y'all ain't gonna put your money on me because I can't tell you the first thing about astrophysics and all that kind of stuff. You're gonna go with the guy that's got the most knowledge. So what makes sense to me that if these people over there in Egypt talking about God, okay, whatever they saying, but they're able to do all of this stuff and build a monument that man and modern science still can't explain. I would think those people know something. Why would you be following the gold herders? It makes no sense. So, all right. The Exodus at best did not happen the way the Bible says. Stop lying about the y'all. Listen, if the Exodus happened according to the Bible, a conservative number is about 1 million people walking out of the city. 1 million. It's actually more than that, but I'm being conservative. 1 million. Do you know what that would do? Do you know the amount of evidence that would be left behind if 1 million people were wandering around in the desert, being so-called swallowed up by the ground? They got to use the restroom. They got animals with them. They got kids with them. They got buggies and carrying stuff with them. Do y'all know none of that is in that desert? None of it. There is no evidence of any of that. It doesn't exist. It's just not there. The sun standing still for Joshua. So I think I might, let me see. Yeah. So the sun standing still. I'm trying to cover that one real quick. It's 8:40. So the sun standing still for Joshua. You look in Joshua 10:12 through 14. 10:12. Actually 10:11. I'm gonna try to bring this one up real quick. Oh, y'all give me a second. I'm gonna bring this up. Better. Share screen. Joshua, share. All right. Joshua 10. Y'all should be seeing this. Okay, Joshua 10 and verse number 12. It says, Then spake Joshua to the Lord, or Yahweh, in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel, and he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon. Now, Joshua is in a fight, y'all, right? Him and the men, they taking lives, you know what I'm saying? They swinging their swords, they taking lives, but there's a slight issue. The issue is it's going to take longer to end this battle than they have daylight. In other words, the sun will be going down and they won't be able to see who they're fighting, right? And these are the type of things I'm going to put out here that you may not think about as a believer, because you're not supposed to, because it stops your thinking. God did this, so that was it, and that was the best way to do it, right? In verse 13 it says, and the sun stood still and the moon stayed until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is not this written in the book of Jasher? By the way, you have to go look up that book. Somebody decided you should not have the book of Jasher in your Bible, but right here, according to your Bible, the book of Jasher has some credibility to it. And then it says, so the sun stood still in the midst of heaven and hastened not to go down about the whole day. Oh man, how did we ever believe all of this stuff? Do y'all see that this man prayed for the sun to stand still so he could keep it? Now, it never occurred to me while I was reading this and while I was a Christian, but why make the sun stand still? Just because that was, and why did, and he didn't have enough people weren't dying from the soldiers fighting. They weren't dying quick enough, because if the battle was over, you don't care about the sun going down. It's good. We done fighting. We get to rest. We get to go to sleep. Blah 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 blah. But there's still more soldiers to fight. So he prays, we need the sun to stay up so we can see where they at, so I can take their head off. You know, we need the sun to look at this, y'all. Why pray for the sun to stand still when just the verse before that? Was it the verse before that? Yeah. Just before that, look at what God is able to do, though. It says, and it came to pass as they fled from before Israel and were in the going down to Beth Horon, that the Lord cast down great stones from heaven upon them to Ezekiah, and they died. They were more which died with hailstones than they whom the children of Israel slew with the sword. Are y'all seeing the problem? Are y'all seeing that? They you can't have Joshua killing more, all right, than God. But if God has all this power, why is Joshua able to pray and ask for the sun to stand still? God could have just sent down some hailstones, just rain some death from heaven. You know, he could have just rained down death. Oh, better yet, he's God. He could have just snapped his figurative fingers and all those soldiers would have fell dead because he's the one that gave them life, right? And Christians, y'all say he has the power over life. He gave them life in the first. He could have just snapped his fingers. Oh yeah. How about this? Forget the sun and the moon standing still. Why didn't God just endow Joshua and his army with the special power of being able to see in the dark? So the other enemy would have been swinging, aimlessly. They couldn't see nobody, while Joshua and them could have just took them out in the dark. Do y'all see the idiocy, the stuff we believe? I'm just ranting on that. Let me see some comments. I'm gonna end with Jonah in the belly of the fish. I'm gonna end with Jonah in the belly of the whale. Texas, if you still on, you would you might enjoy this one because of where I get it from. All right, let me see what some of the comments say before I go to Jonah. Let me see. Brother God murdered over 1,000 of his people. Aaron made bronze, and it was no evidence. No evidence. And 3,000 people died out there on one of those mountains. This was when Moses, like 3,000 died back then. But then when you get to Acts, it's just a flip inside out of the story because in Acts, 3,000 people were saved. Same story. Let's see. So God granted the sun to stand still so they could kill folks. Exactly. That's exactly what happened, Dewan. He granted the sun to stand still. He could have done any number of things. There's another story in the Bible. I think it was Sennacherib's army, where an angel took out about 180,000 soldiers with the swing of a sword. Why does the sun and the moon? You know how many things would have went into chaos on Earth if that actually happened? I mean, I don't know, but I imagine stuff would have been real jacked up if the sun and the moon actually just stop. Okay, no, not, and even more than that. Let me say this, because the Earth, or the sun rather, is not orbiting the Earth. The Earth is orbiting the sun. So this also demonstrates the ignorance of the ancient writers of our solar system. It illustrates their ignorance. Tovius is a B. Yeah, yes, he is. All right. Does the sun really move? Exactly, Jarvis. I just see that's what I was just pointing out. It points out their ignorance. This is exactly the type of writing you expect from an ancient civilization that has no understanding of how this solar system works. So this last one I'm gonna deal with. This last one, it's gonna be brief. I want to talk about Jonah. I think I'm gonna leave that there. Let me stop sharing this screen. Give me a second, y'all. All right, because I'm almost out of here, y'all. Almost out. All right. Y'all familiar with the story, right? Jonah, you can find this in the book of Jonah, chapter 1, and the verses I'm really looking at is verse 17. But it's a short book in the Old Testament. Jonah was supposed to go and preach to a city called Nineveh. He was to tell them about their great sins and all that, and God wanted them to repent. Now, Jonah didn't like the people in Nineveh. He didn't want to go, so he was like, "Nah, man, I don't want to go because God will forgive him and everything. I'm gonna go and get on this boat that's going in the other direction." He gets on the boat, and the sailors are like, "Man, this the sea, everything is going bad around us. Who's the one to blame for this going bad around us?" Sound like more, ancient people in their stories, right? So they cast lots, and the lots tell them Jonah is the one. So they throw Jonah overboard on the boat, and this is where a big fish. But listen to what this says. This is Jonah chapter 1 and verse 17. It says, "Now the Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights." This is my last one, y'all. So 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a whale. Now, the reason I bring this one up, some of you know I've said before about where I started my training in the Bible at a small college in Terrell, Texas, called Southwestern Christian College. And my whole reason for choosing that as a college was a debate I heard with what was then the president. He is now deceased. I put respect on his name. Very educated man named Dr. Jack Evans Sr. I heard a debate that he had with an individual named Jeremiah Cummings, who was in the NOI at the time. This is probably 1999. I heard this debate, and Dr. Evans mopped the floor with Jeremiah. I mean, when you talk about a great debater, to me, there's nobody. If you in religion, you couldn't touch this man. In his latter years, he was not doing well, and in my opinion, just to put respect on his name, and those who are in the church will know what I'm talking about. That debate that he had with the Hebrew Israelites, Dr. Evans was not well. He would have mopped the floor with that guy had it been so many years earlier. But anyway, I said that to say in that debate, um, Dr. Evans said this. He said, I think he was being challenged on whether or not Jonah was actually swallowed by a whale. And Dr. Evans quoted Jacques Cousteau, the famous marine biologist from back in the day. He said Jacques Cousteau said that a whale cannot swallow a man because of the way his throat is constructed, and this could never happen. It would never be able to live, right? And then Dr. Evans said, but if God prepared the fish, he could have had a Holiday Inn in him. And y'all, when I tell you, I was like, go ahead, Doc. That's right. If God prepared the fish, he could have had a Holiday Inn in him. He could have had the Empire State Building in him. Because if God prepared the fish, anything is possible. Y'all, I thought that was such a profound thing back then. Because if God prepared the fish, it could have had anything. Anything is possible. You know what else is possible? And what makes anything possible? Imagination. Imagination sets us free. Y'all remember that song? I think Tamia did it. I like the Lil Jon bass version. What makes us do the things we do? Y'all remember that song Lil Jon did? And it was called Imagination. Y'all, imagination is a problem for believers. It aids in their mental psychosis because they cannot tell when they are imagining from what really is. God is really your imagination. I think it was Neville Goddard. Chris, that was Neville Goddard that said that, right? Yeah, I think that was Neville Goddard. Goddard said that God is your imagination, and when you think about it, you will see that anything is possible right there. Anything is possible in the mind, in the imagination. But out here in real life, not so. Need some demonstration. A lot of other things gotta go down. So I'm gonna try to check out some more of y'all's comments. Y'all give me a second. I done got off track and I gotta get back to my playlist. Ugh, I hate that I did that. Let me see what some of the comments are saying before I get out of fish, not a whale. Yeah, it says a great fish, but some people say, well, listen, Egyptians were known for their intelligence and they documented their history. Why wouldn't their enslavement of the Jews be in their documentation? Yeah. So people try to say that, oh, that they didn't talk about their failures and such, but we do have such. Now, I will say the Merneptah stone while I'm getting this ready. People try to say that the Merneptah stone, see that's the proof for these individuals. The Merneptah stone proves that Israel existed and therefore everything else is supposed to be true, right? That's what the believers seem to think because the Merneptah stone mentions this people Israel. The thing about it, when you go and you look up your Merneptah stone and you start to see that, and I will acknowledge that the scholars will tell you, yeah, that's saying that name. But I'm not denouncing or denying that a people existed, okay, that were called that. I'm not denying that. I'm simply saying all this stuff that these people wrote about, or what you seeing in this so-called book, does not. Those things are definitely not the case. They are not true, and we don't have any evidence to support it. I'm gonna read some more comments before we get out of here. Very true. What was it, a fish or whale? Yo, it don't even matter. Fish, whale. From what I'm saying, is it? Let me see. Let me think. Because whales are mammals. It says in the Bible, it says great fish, but it really don't matter. Either way, you cannot you cannot get a human being living 3 days in the digestive center of any fish, okay, or any great fish or whale. It does not make sense. This is stuff for complete fairy tale. There were more Israelites that left Egypt than there was Egypt. Exactly, with the whole Egypt story. Y'all, it's about 1 million people in Jacksonville, Florida. So if you're watching this from Jacksonville, could you imagine this whole city, the whole city of Jacksonville, getting up and just walking to Atlanta? Think about it, man. And not leaving any evidence of move. I mean, we see evidence just when a hurricane comes and everybody got to get out of Dodge. We see this type of thing happening. So, with that being said, DMG, what he said, imagination aids in our ability to break away from religious doctrine in training. I think imagination can go both ways, DMG. It can aid when you realize that that's what it is why you're believing. If you're in religion and you realize it's your imagination that you are using to justify, not that you have some actual evidence of these things, then you can snap out of it. That's what I had to do. But imagination can work in the other way, in the other direction. Let me see what my cousin's saying here. I listened to your whole narration about why you left the church. No, I didn't. Andre, before I even finished that comment, I didn't tell you why. I didn't tell you everything about why I left the church. See, this is the stuff believers need to stop doing. And this is my blood cousin, by the way, y'all. So I can say what I need to say. Um, this is the stuff that y'all do. Y'all need to start asking questions. Listen to the song I'm going to play at the end. Listen to Chief Collie tell you the wisdom that came from his father. Ask questions, stop assuming, because that is not what I just did in this live. Give you everything about why I left the church. And it wasn't really a leaving of the church in that sense. Okay. I was leaving falsehood. Let me say it like that. Let me continue to read your comment. I listened to the whole narration about why you left the church. Here's what I think. 1 Corinthians 8:22. And if 8:2, and if any man think if you know if he know if nothing he ought to know. All right, Andre, watch this. Watch this. I've listened to you try to debate what I'm saying, and here's what I think about what you say. If any man think if he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing yet as he ought to know. Fair, fair, no special pleading. I think the same thing about you, cuz I love you, but I think the same thing. I thought you said you would explain why you left. I have some explanation. Some of that is in here, but this is not the whole thing. I have commonly said there are three main reasons, and some of them bleed over. It's like a tree. I have three main things that I'm saying about why I could no longer hold on to my religion. One, there's a historical problem. Real history contradicts the Bible. Two, textual, meaning the text itself of the Bible, it has interpolations, it has things that have been added, it has a whole book that has been taken out. How we got the Bible is an issue. It screams man tampering with it, but God supposedly promised that he was going to preserve his word. Well, if we don't have the original word and nobody knows what he originally said, did he actually do that? Well, who's to say that a God actually said he was going to do that? It sounds like man made up. So you have the historical reasons you got to deal. I did deal with some of those, but I didn't really go much into my textual reason. That's a big one. And then the last one is doctrinal. What is taught about Jesus? And I'm gonna say that before I get out of here, about Jesus being the way, the truth, and the light. Here's how that ties in, and that doesn't work. Jesus said, "No man comes to the Father but by him." That's the verse I meant to quote. It's not about the way, the truth, and the light, but he said, "No man comes to the Father but by him." That means you got to hear and know about Jesus before you die in order to enter heaven. So if he says that, there is no way around it because he said it. He's the king. He knows all of that stuff, whatever. So that has to happen. And I'm sure you would agree, Andre. Yes, you have to hear, believe, repent, confess, and be baptized in order to be saved. You also probably would agree with I think it's First Timothy 2:1-4, that talks about uh, how he wants everybody to be saved. And then it kind of repeats itself in 2 Peter 3:9. God is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, but is long suffering, and he's not willing that any should perish. So God has a desire that everybody he gives life be saved, because he's supposed to be love itself, the very essence of love. So if he loves you, gave you life, he's going to make sure you hear about the Jesus story, right? Problem is, that's not what we see in reality. There are people that die every day, never heard of Jesus, and we know about North Sentinel Island. I have beaten that horse, but maybe you didn't hear it. So Dre, all you have to do is look into some real history, and you will find out that there are people that have died and never heard about Jesus. That's a problem. That is a real huge problem for an entity that's supposed to be all knowing and all loving. It just don't work, because it's garbage. It's trash. It does not work. Doesn't make sense. The only way you can justify it is through your imagination. It's the only way you can justify that. So, especially if he is your father, well, I'm waiting for the rest because it's a lot I don't understand about science. All right. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I don't understand a lot about science, but the little bit that I do know, if you go and look, you will find that the science that you can demonstrate, the simple stuff, you ain't got to have no PhD in astrophysics to understand this stuff. It's very simple and basic stuff that deals with this. And that makes sense because those that gave us the Bible were not the most intelligent people in the first place. So with that being said, family, you know what? I'm going to get on out of here. I want to say thanks, though, because I did see this while I was on here, and I wanted to send, who am I thinking? I wanted to thank Monique Cross for helping out financially, saying keep going. I appreciate that. And I also wanted to appreciate Bruce Lixcomb. I think Bruce, you out there on the road and you drive and be safe, my bro. He listens to the show. And if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please go ahead and do that. We're gonna keep building. I ain't quite got the hang of this TikTok thing, y'all, but when I go on Christmas break from my job, probably after this weekend, I plan to get real heavy so I can give y'all some real short videos on things like the Noah's Flood, some things you can start sharing with your family and just get them thinking. You know what I'm saying? Thinking for themselves. Appreciate that. Joe, y'all know how I do. Y'all can't get out of here without giving it up for my boy Chief Collie. I want to appreciate, man. By the way, Chief got some fire coming out, and I'm not talking about a song. I'm talking about a docu-series. Y'all just stay tuned. I'm not gonna say much about it. I'm just gonna say 1968. About to hit y'all with some knowledge, some real stuff. Guess what? Some of us got more in us. I don't want to say too much. We go ahead and share this out, man. Family, peace, love to y'all, man. We out.
You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything. Some people open up their eyes to see the world they know outside. I can close my eyes and see all that and way beyond. When these trials of life come heavy and these obstacles get hard, feeling like I need some answers, I just go and talk to God. When I'm looking for guidance, need more than sight, need vision, need direction when I'm blinded. Then I start that conversation with that voice I hear inside me, and that conversation starts with a voice inside that sounds just like me. When I talk to God, you can see God in anything, your reflection. I can find God in anything. When I talk to God, you can see God in anything. When I talk to God, find God in anything. When I talk to God, my daddy said don't ever assume, ask questions. It's ironic it was that advice that helped the song happen. It was also that advice that led me to my life's blessings. That same advice helped me make it through life's lessons. It was that advice that separates grown-ups away from children. That advice can be the difference from knowing or just believing. It was that advice that brought the gavel down on my decisions of breaking the mental chains of these man-created religions. Cause faith and belief, nonsense, the biggest scam ever. I hate to say it, I swear it's one hell of a mental illness. Why we do it with these religions? The fact that COVID is killing while all of these guys is missing. Peekaboos, guys playing games with you. I'ma just assume he ain't got no COVID miracles. Maybe he ran out after making the donkey talk. Or some stories about a guy walking on water tides. This is simply a distraction to keep you away from you and to look outside for a guy when the God is inside of you. When you close your eyes at night and pray to that voice you talking to. When you ready to face the truth, you realize that voice is you. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in.